Great. Hello, my name is Ofer. I'm CEO of a company called RealVR.ai, producer of Villa, which is an app over XR applications such as VR, mostly currently over Quest is the big focus, as well as coming to other places like Pico and PlayStation and Apple when they come around. And then the web. Right now, we do have a web presence. We're increasing it, but really the focus is VR. I'll give you a quick background about myself. We just went through a roundtable here, learning about the participants. Great backgrounds. I'd say most people here are either advanced or very aware of AI, very much interested in this. I should do a raise of hands, maybe just real quick. Who doesn't here have some form of VR in the crowd? Anybody? Raise your hands, and maybe Dominic, can you maybe tell us, because I can't really see
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
is there
Anybody
anybody
who wants to raise their hands,
for
if
not
they want,
having? Okay, so
for
everybody
not
here
having.
has,
Yeah.
everybody has VR. Of the
Tracy,
people in the crowd,
Tracy, I
Tracy does,
think.
okay.
Yeah.
So, and of the roughly, I guess, 15, 20 people that are here, how many people do not have a Quest?
Yeah. Benita?
Okay. So, I think that that's pretty much reflective. If you stop to think about it, and you do a back of the napkin calculation, pretty much most families in the US today, most households, families have Quests. About 90% of the market. Obviously, that's going to change with other entrants. But at this time in 2023, beginning 2023, the sort of the dominant hardware is Quest 2, which is an amazing device. If you think about it, it's been around for a couple of years. It does pretty much everything it needs to do. Really great bang for the buck. It's a subsidized product. People forget that. It's a much more expensive product if it wasn't for the fact that Meta were to subsidize it. And I think that everybody here should have a lot of respect for that, because that's what gave it a big push to make it so that every household I'd say every other household in the US today has it, just in terms of numbers, roughly. I obviously don't have the numbers they have, but roughly, back in the napkin calculation, every other household in the US has it. It's also very popular worldwide. For us, Villa, as I mentioned earlier, we have 500,000 users. They're active in the last 6 months. Different forms of activity here. I'll get into that as we go through this. Our countries are pretty much the dominant countries here are the US, Canada. The UK is huge into gaming, like outstandingly huge versus the rest of Europe. And Israel is probably the number one in per capita users for our platform. I do happen to be from Israel, but this shouldn't have anything to do with it. It's just countries that adopt innovation are pretty much at the top here of the consumption. There are some limitations. Other countries, I believe Germany only recently got it. So they're a little bit trailing behind. It wasn't even being sold, Quest 2. And but things are picking up. And I guess in terms of the industry, a lot of you might at least be aware of Quest Pro. Quest Pro is a product that is still sort of, I believe a lot of developers are having it. It's, my guess is, a prequel to the next Quest that will come out. That'll be more for everyone. But the use of eye tracking is pretty amazing, so that you can have, vivid interactions, and we already have that on Villa. We've adapted that to Quest Pro. It's phenomenal. The experience is a lot more natural. It gives you the ability to feel like you're there with an animated avatar instead of a dull face. I do have video. I can probably show that to you throughout this demonstration. And so expressions are the other. So eye tracking, so you can see, so if somebody's staring at you, you can see that they're looking at you, or if they're looking to the side, you can see that too, because their eyeballs will be moving, right? That's a big deal. It's a big jump here in the experience, in the interactive experience of VR. And then the other one is natural facial expressions. If I smile, if I puff my cheeks, if I frown, you can see that on Quest Pros. It's the price point is just not there. It's way too expensive. It doesn't give you, I'd say, enough, I think, for the market. We can see it. The market is still just learning to sort of adapt to the benefits, the pros and cons. It is targeted for the enterprise market. As for us, in terms of demographics, we have roughly 85% consumer, 15% enterprise. Enterprise is rising in terms of the usership. I think that there's a little bit of a different sort of, I guess, trends. One was, everybody knows, because of Corona, there was a very, fast adoption of anything digital, right, during those times of 2020, 2021. And then because of the crash, there's also the other, force, which is to, hey, let's reduce the costs of running meetings, of running companies. Why do we even need the physical building, right? A lot of companies, I think, are asking that right now. Even those companies who are, trying to say that this is the way forward, even those companies, I think, must be reconsidering, just because of the hefty costs of running a physical building, and also the I guess the complexity in getting for the employees, for the workforce to get there, to physically be there when half the people in the company oftentimes are commuting from work. Look at that. That was a slip. From home, from Wi-Fi, right? From wherever they would like. And so if people are commuting from Wi-Fi, what's the benefit here? So there is some benefit. Some people do prefer to have a physical presence with other people. I think most people would say that they would prefer that. It's just that the pain that it involves, and then you don't have to have it if you can redo it in digital. And so that's the prompt that got us actually during Corona to do what we're doing today with Villa. I'll tell you very quickly about Villa, and then we'll finally talk about AI and the intersection of AI with XR. So Villa started through, so I'm going to go back in time. So I come from a communications background in pretty much WebRTC communications technologies. And I've noted, I'm one of those people who, I'm very much an early adopter in my matrix, and what I get attracted to. I'm always sort of thinking 5, 10, 20 years forward. One of my all-time favorites is a futurist who, in terms of influencers, or people who have influenced the way I think, his name is David Passig. He's a professor at Bar-Ilan University in Israel. I actually met with him just recently when I was there. He's amazing. He's an amazing person. He's one of the few people that can actually see 20 years forward, not just 5 years forward. And he's pretty much, nobody really, but he uses empirical and research to arrive at his conclusions. And when I read his book in 2010, it was called 2048. Not sure if it was translated to English. I'm from Israel originally. It was in Hebrew. But he predicted the Russian-Ukrainian war pretty much to the dot in 2010. That's pretty amazing, I think, because I remember at the time, I remember reading it going, why there? Why Russia? What's going on? And he shows you all the different, variations of why it's very likely that there will be a conflict right in that territory. And here we go. And here we are. So this is kind of futurist, and he was very much interested in VR back in 2005. He came up with research that pretty much showed that VR makes you 20% more intelligent in a lab. He's been able to show that, to demonstrate that. That caught my attention when I was playing around with, when I was tinkering around with the Oculus Dev Kit, back when Palmer Luckey came out, when they came out with it before the acquisition and everything. So by the time that I came around, in fact, I was a lot more drawn to PC VR initially. I think there's a watershed moment for me was a game called Alex, ALYX. For me, it was just the first time that something just shook my world in terms of VR, for many reasons, and I'll explain them briefly. The first one is the character there is a black 19-year-old female from Russia. I mean, you can't even mix it up even more, and it forces you to be her as a character, and you're looking at yourself, and I'm male, I'm white, I'm just like, this doesn't compute. But suddenly you learn to really appreciate, because she has superpowers, and you suddenly see that it really helps you to just live in other people's experiences. And I think that's the power of VR in general. It's one of the many, many superpowers that exist today. We allow you to have on Villa as many avatars as you'd like. We do use third-party avatars, Ready Player Me, but that's and there'll be other avatars in the future, but that's regardless. The point here is that you can have as many as you want. You can flip through them live after you prepare them. It takes only a few seconds to prepare each one, but you can have one for each type. You can have any skin color. You can be purple if you want to. You can be a man, a woman, and anything in between. The point here is that you can be, furries. I mean, they've got, you've probably all seen it. They've got a bunch of different experiences, but it is fun. It is fun to sort of interact with people who are not necessarily exactly how they are in the physical world, right? It's a fun experience. I mean, of course, you could also be roughly who you are in the physical world. It'll get better as we get into other technologies like volumetric video, where perhaps it'll be really just us being projected as a hologram. But for now, it's close enough. If you're a little bit older or any age you are, you'll always be sort of like a Botoxed self. There's a technical explanation for that. Anything to do with wrinkles is really tough to project those fine lines in polygons in compute constrained environments such as Quest. So I don't think anybody has yet complained about it, but that's, if you're ever wondering why is it already looking a little bit childish in there, if you're a little bit older, then that's why, right? And again, I don't know. It's interesting. It's a little bit sterile. I wish that it was a little bit more real. And we have the whole spectrum of ages. We have people on our platform that are 82 years old, right? And we also have people that are very young. So it's really interesting to see the whole gamut of experiences. With regards to, I'm going to walk you through, give you a very quick background also. I'll just continue through time. So we were actually in real estate originally. It was just not quite there in terms of doing real estate walkthroughs in VR. When Corona hits, we made a pivot, and the way we are today is a metaverse. We call it terraforming platform. So what does that mean? Terraforming, you basically, we give you a planet, you get parcels on it, and you form it, you shape it in VR to be something that excites you. So I think Gigi mentioned here that she was building worlds. So for us at this stage, we're really going for the majority of the people who don't know how to code just yet in Unity or Unreal, and we make it very much simple to build worlds so you can experiment with it. It's a very interactive experience. You go in there, you start from when you subscribe to the platform, you start from a fresh, and I'll show you visuals in a moment. You start from a clean slate, and you basically build on top. You can just it's all keyword searched. We're about to ship voice dictation, so you'll be able to do that because it's a little bit annoying to type. So that comes, I believe, today or tomorrow. We're going to push this. So if you're using Villa, be on the lookout. And of course, this thing about AI, initially with generative AI, the ability to, for those of you, there's quite a few here who love creating art using AI. We're using DALL-E 2. You'll be able to just do that in VR. It's interesting. I would love to get feedback afterwards if any of you have used it. Again, it's not out just yet. I'll show you a demo right now. It'll go out probably today or tomorrow. In terms of going back to how we got here today, one of I guess another influencers for me was a series called Westworld. I don't know how many of you have seen it. Unfortunately, HBO took it off air for multiple reasons we won't get into right now. Westworld is a series where I'm not going to give you any spoilers actually, but the concept here, just a very high level concept that as it relates to how it influences Villa, is that there's a scene there where the founders essentially have created an entertainment world to allow basically hosts, which are artificial intelligent entities. They're not human, and guests who are human, to interact with each other. That's kind of where we're going here. That's exactly sort of the topic here today of this conversation. We are essentially living Westworld already today in 2023. Of course, that series projects into the future, but we're living it today. That's kind of how the product is designed along those concepts, right? You as a founder, right, you get to build your own world, like what Gigi said she's doing, and several other people here mentioned that they were doing, which is a lot of fun, right? So it's a very satisfying creative process. We create a world, then you can have guests come in, and we're working on the hosts, the AI hosts, and we're very public about it. So So that's behind the scenes. It'll probably ship sometime soon, but that ability to also interact in there with AI beings. So then in today, what I'd love to do is, as soon as I'm done with the intro, as soon as I'm done showing you a few screen shares here, and we'll pause because it's going to be video, and I'll just pause it to show you some clips, basically. As soon as we're done with that, I'd love to open this conversation to questions and make it a little bit more interactive. Maybe we should just start with that right now. Basically, I'm going to show you, start with the AI that we just launched here. So hopefully you can see my screen. This is on our YouTube if you're interested, but it'll be in VR, which is really interesting in just a little bit. So, oh, sorry, let me stop the share. I think I need to do it with audio. I forgot to do that. So share sound. Here we go. So what you'll see is the UI, everybody knows about this UI. It's pay attention to the funness of this in VR. I don't know if this is going to be the killer app at all, but I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it's the beginning of other interesting things to come. So here we go.
Westworld Season 1, people sitting in a stadium, in a sunset, looking at a rainbow with butterflies flying in the background in futuristic London.
There you go. So we've all seen this before, but let me also show you our trailer real quick if you haven't seen it. I'll pause on a few things here. So for us, we're a place where you get to meet other people. You get to work. We do have people doing stand-ups and happy hours. That's kind of where things are at today in VR. We're about to launch a capability that allows you, today we'll let you have up to 100 people per villa. Villa, think of it as kind of like in the world of Teams or Slack. It's kind of like a channel, right? Where people sort of interact. If you have an org, when you create an account on Villa, you get an organization. And that organization could be for, gaming. It could be for, in other words, social, gaming, but it can also be for work. You can call it whatever you'd like. It doesn't have to be a company. If you have a company, Dominic, for example, could open one for her XR, meetup if she wanted. And then she can also invite all of, anybody that has a Villa account by email. She can invite those people in, and she can exhibit in there as an example, right? And she can have different exhibits. You can have up to 10 channels. A channel, again, for us is called a villa. A villa is an entire world. It's 5 miles. We're very expansive. We like our, area. We don't like to limit you. So we give you a huge expanse, 5 miles, in diameter, to be exact. And in there, you can build whatever you'd like. You can fly in all directions. So today, inside each expanse like that, you can have up to 100 people, but we're about to push a capability that makes this go up to thousands of people simultaneously. Okay, we've just finished doing this. We're about to launch it. I don't think that anybody's yet done it before, but it's again, I don't get too excited by these things because this whole world is evolving so quickly right now that and none of this is like I'm not thinking of it as first user advantage or first player advantage whatsoever. I think everybody's gonna have some forms of this. What differentiates us is, and I'll get into the subtleties here momentarily. You'll be able to see it in this presentation. But the way, first of all, we're built around Unreal, not Unity. Things are done much differently in Unreal than in Unity, even though the systems high level are very similar. So keep that in mind, and we will open this up so other people can build their own games in Unreal and then ship it into this thing. So if you're doing that, if you're interested, please tap us. It'll go out very soon, just to keep up with the Joneses. In fact, there's in Unity, I think lots of players right now are already doing it. For us, we're a little bit behind on that part, but we're getting there fast. Other things we do differently, and I'll get into that right now. So again, meet, work, and play. Oh. Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. So let me just, when I watch YouTube, I'm usually on 2x. So it's going a little fast. So this was shot a few months ago when we had half body avatars. We do have full body avatars today. You'll see those in a second. So this is called Galactica. It's our in-app game. You buy land, nix the NFTs. We don't let you buy it for NFTs, but if you have an NFT, we have a MetaMask connection. You sort of, during this crypto winter, this is not our focal point at all, but it is available for those who would like to. So you can buy land with dollars essentially, right? And this is, in this case, in Galactica, we call them parcels, unlike villas. They act in the same way. They're slightly smaller. They're 1 mile in diameter, but still very, very large. And the beauty here is that you can buy this. It's very affordable. They're going for $20. You buy a piece of land, it's yours for life. And you can also sell it in app and earn coins. You can take those coins and redeem them for other experiences. So it's kind of like, essentially you can make money here. But today it's in the form of coins. We do want in the future to allow to convert this back to dollars when the different platforms enable that. Currently it's not enabled by Meta. So this is an example of how I go in there and I search by keyword for Tesla, and I can just spawn it. I can spawn anything basically by keyword. We get into different libraries like Sketchfab, and you can pretty much have most of these things for free. Other things, if you have a Sketchfab account, which I highly recommend, then you can actually bookmark and keep different series of things, and you can do that through this API. Everything you see here on Villa is user generated. So this is an example of what you can do. You can do these kinds of worlds. Hard to see, but there's a trail here. We actually on Villa give you different trails to play with. You can buy them. It's kind of like a signature because everything is done flying mostly on Villa. You can walk, but it's just less exciting. So because of our big expanse, we needed something that takes you around in a faster way. So you fly everywhere. Most people love it. So you'll see that there's a character here. He's flying, and there it is. It's Bernard from Westworld, right? It's one of the founders there. So again, on Villa, you can fly. You have unlimited full-body avatars. Our demographic, don't let this fool you. The demographics here are adults, professionals. In other words, not kids. That's the target. Of course, there's kids using this. We can't control a lot of these things. There is another area for kids or people under the age of 18 who would like to use this. But our target here is for professionals. It's gamers and professionals using this. Again, don't let the avatar young look fool you. Some of these people might be in their 50s and 60s and so on. We do have 3D maps. These are essentially the telltale of a digital twin. A digital twin is a living, profile, digital profile of a physical place. In this case, these are maps. They are streaming. They're made from billions of photos stitched together in photogrammetry. It's photos plus LiDAR. Coming from drones and airplanes and so on. So we have 6 cities right now. The list is growing. This is Denver, if anybody recognizes. You can take your entire team and go places. Again, you have to, if you're technical, you'd have a lot of respect for this because it's really, really tough. We're talking about, terabytes of information here. And how do you condense that into a compute-constrained device like Quartz? It's a very tough thing to do. So we're solving for that. We're optimizing to make this work. This is Jerusalem. It's a fantastic model. If you're into history, there's a lot to see here. This is the Temple Mount where the original temple was built. That's what you're seeing here. Today, there's a mosque right here called the Dome of the Rock. It was built about 1,000 years ago. But this thing right below you is the temple that David built. It's from 3,000 years ago. It's pretty outstanding. If you're a history buff, you're going to love this. This right here is the West Wall, which is just the western, wall of the entire temple. And there's a lot of archaeology going here. I just came from there. We're doing a bunch of scans in Jerusalem. It's amazing. The technology that you have today, the archaeology that's going on there, underground, above ground, we're bringing it all into Villa over the next few months. It's a very tough technical process to go through, but that's what we're working on, and we're hoping to bring other cities around the world as well. This is available today. You do need to buy it because these models cost a lot of money to create. So the fee, I think it's going for, I believe, don't quote me, but I believe that right now it's going for something like $30 for 3 months. And if you experience this inside Villa, again, send us feedback. We think it's really, really exciting. Again, you can go 20 miles by 20 miles. You can go anywhere you'd like in the place. This is a one-on-one model that goes down to 3 centimeter resolution. If you stop to think about it, it's just insane. It's really great. I didn't think it would be this good in 2023, honestly, that you'd be able to do so much already in 2023. Now, if you're not technical, you go in there and you'll go, hey, why does it look like a bomb went off here and all that? But again, if you're technical, you'll understand that as it is right now, the sort of the challenges from a technical perspective that you have to break through are out of this planet. There's literally a few terabytes of information that we have to bring together down to 3 centimeters of resolution and still not cause this app to crash, right? Apps crash on Quest because they're running on X2, Qualcomm. It can't really process as much GPU and CPU as you would need. But honestly, the biggest bottleneck here is just Wi-Fi. It's not even the polygons, even though you have to work a lot with the polygons, but it's actually the biggest bottleneck right now is the Wi-Fi, getting everything in fast enough. We do have real estate walkthroughs through our integration. So if you're into that, if you have a home on Zillow, tap us. We'll show you how to do this. It's very easy to bring up a 360 home for real estate. This here is in Telluride in Colorado. This is what we call performances. You'll notice that there's 3 different types here of performers. I'll let it run in a second, but this here is this insect and this boxer. They're CGI. They're made, from somebody creating animated 3D model, right? But this one here is actually volumetric video. So I'll let it play for a little bit. We've got this coming. This is our integration for music. So if you want to, we have over 35,000 soundtracks on Villa that you can, it requires a separate subscription to Epidemic Sound, but we have that. It's available. Use it up. We have quite a few free sounds. Again, the way this works, 3D sound, it's kind of whole new. When we created it, we thought this was straightforward. Today we're thinking about it and we're like, wow, this is quite outstanding in the perspective that there's a concept here where you click, you create a speaker, the speaker emits sound. I'll show you what that looks like in a second here, right here. So I can control the volume, the sound radius, the linear fade out. Again, you don't need to know how to code in Unity or Unreal to do this. You just need to have creativity, and you just need to want to build the different worlds, and then you can drop music in there, and all your visitors will be able to hear it according to the parameters you would like. And I think we're almost done here. I'll just show you, this again was shot a few months ago. The zeitgeist back then was, of course, NFTs, but today swap it with what we're about to get into, which is AI. So you can just create art and you can exhibit it. So it's interesting because it's pretty much the AI art right now is taking over this. So the rest I don't need to show you. I'll just stop right here. And going back to the AI art that we saw here. So check out our YouTube. There's quite a few other things to see, but I'll stop the share here and I'll just say a couple of words. So first of all, for ChatGPT, it was mentioned earlier when we were going through the, we're going one by one with the intros. Everybody, and Dominic presented it very well. ChatGPT is the hot thing right now. AI in general is finally, I think, getting to the point where we as a humanity are really starting to see the many benefits that can come from it. In this conversation today, I would like to not spend time, although anybody who wants to bring it up, you're welcome to. It's just not something that I think we can cram into the meeting today regarding all the negative aspects of AI. I think what drew people here, I believe, is the positive elements of AI. I'll just give you my concept about it. I don't think of it at all in any way, shape, or form as something that replaces humans, not even close. I come from an open market philosophy. I view these things as merely tools in the hands of humans to use, to leverage, even years and years from now, right? And so the people here in the crowd, a lot of us are already using this in some form, either personally or at work. But the point here is that AI is a layer. It's a layer that basically puts everything on steroids, right? It just speeds things up in the creation process. And it helps us. If we're an artist, now we can create things much more fast. We can still adapt things, but we can have a base. If we're a writer, we can, we all saw what ChatGPT can do. I've been using that kind of stuff for at least a year. We even have a blog, an AI blog. It's been up on our site for more than a year, right? Where we just let the AI type itself. Right now, it's become a free product through ChatGPT. And it's interesting. But does that mean people can't discern when something is written by AI? Of course not. People immediately can see that something is written by AI. It's not even interesting. It's more AI for AI right now, right? For SEO and other things, other reasons. But you have to take the base, whether it's art, whether it's and by the way, art on DALL-E 2. I'm sorry, a lot of this comes with eyeballs sticking out and things that are just not looking great, right? You have to smooth it out if you're an artist, unless you want something completely irrational. Then you do need to take it as a base, and you take it with a grain of salt. But the potential, I think, here is what everybody's looking at right now, and that's what we're gravitated here is how can we make our experience as humans, of course, a lot more enriching. And I think there's a lot of beauty in this because things that were, it suddenly just makes everything that previously we used to do almost like the fax machine, right? If you think about it, writing, for example, you can just let this thing write and then you can adapt it to what you need, right? And that's where, again, humans are needed. Now your output is going to be a lot bigger as a human because now you have a tool, that's on steroids here, that's going and type something up in a minute. Then there's the whole interaction, right? A lot of people come in VR and they might be lonely, but again, you can't talk about this topic without also looking at the negative, right? How many of us have Siri in their pockets or Google Voice, right? Probably everybody. And how much of it do you actually use of the thousands of commands? Very few, right? So again, take it with a grain of salt. These things are still in their buds, but I think that, again, want to focus this back to the potential that this presents. For us, there's quite a few things that are up and coming here. The interaction with AI inside VR, I don't know, it hasn't really been, it hasn't arrived yet at market fit just yet, right? It's going to take months for that to happen, even when we launch this thing. And you have to come in humbly, realizing that what you think is going to happen is not necessarily what actually is going to unravel. It might be a big, boo, and people will go, this is bullshit. Already today, everybody's going, you're AI. When I go in there, I talk to people. A lot of our users are like, hey, are you AI? Like they're already thinking that I'm AI. It's me. It's just me. That's what they think. That's what people think. There's a lot of, again, just very, very high level. In VR, it's also very easy to pretend like you're somebody else, right? And that can also bring negative or bad players into the mix. So knowing as a company how to weed those out or giving the tools to block those people is essential. So because in the end, in public places, and remember, Villa, first and foremost, is a private place. You have your own private org, but we do allow you to publicize. And very soon, we're adding this thing called a broadcast. So you'll be able to basically be just like what we're doing right now in Zoom, right? One to many or many to many. You'll be able to do that very soon over Villa. Like I said, to thousands of users. But again, how does AI? This is where I want to open this up, if you don't mind, to questions, and then we'll wrap this things up. But I'd love to, and it's not just questions, it's also ideas. It's also, philosophy, whatever you'd like to discuss. I want to open this and make this sort of like equalize the opportunity for everyone here to bring their footprint, their fingerprint into the mix here.
Feel free to raise your hands and I will call your name according to the order. If you have any questions you want to ask Ofer. And I would say, yeah, I mean, we all know that sci-fi films has a lot of, negativity. I would say we can probably do a little bit both because it's not perfectly good. It's always there's something like nothing is perfectly good. Yeah. And since human is not perfect and AI is just a tool, imperfect animal using a tool might end up with either good or bad. So I'm open to question. First one is Gene.
Yes, I was just wondering how you, as a user, how do you generate a new environment within your system?
Right. Okay. So today we're not quite there yet with AI to generate worlds, although that's sort of like where we're definitely headed. So today's just keyword search. We let you right from in VR. You can go into Sketchfab. You can search from hundreds of thousands of mostly free objects, and you can also buy objects on the internet. You can go to TurboSquid. You can buy any object you'd like. You can go anywhere. Besides those two platforms, there's like endless platforms these days. Most of them are user generated. A lot of them are free. I want to emphasize. It's amazing how much user-generated stuff. There's a lot of junk there as well. You have to like weed it out. You have to. We give you the amount of polygons and the size. We don't limit you, but we tell you very, very clearly, hey, if you go and spawn something gigantic over Quest, you will crash. And we do everything we can to prevent you from doing that. But if you wanted to experiment, you could do that. You could experiment with going to the sort of limit, and it's up to you. You know, some people, we've seen people post a work of art that they might have created. You can create your own, of course. If several people noted here that they know Unity or Unreal. Don't even need to know those. You can do just Maya or Blender or 3ds Max. You can create these things anywhere you'd like. And we accept any file format. So GLT, well, most file formats. So whether it's a GLTB or GLTF, animated or not animated, whether it's an FBX or OBJ, whether it's a JPEG or PNG, zipped or unzipped, you can just literally take it and drag and drop it into your world if you don't find it inside VR. Because we give you access from inside the world, so you don't have to go outside. But if you would like to bring your own stuff, you can do that. Let me show you what that looks like real quick, and I'll also show you what especially because it sounded like you specifically are very interested in the AI art portion of it. So let me show you just real briefly here. It's still behind the scenes because we're about to push this to production, but I'll show you what it looks like as it stands today. So let's see, which one do I have here? Just give me one quick moment to bring this up. So yeah, so you can bring any file format in. Does that answer your question, or do you want to fine tune the question? Maybe I misunderstood.
No, I guess one thing I'm curious about is,
yeah.
do you operate with Niantic in any way?
No, Niantic is a lot more into their AR, right, currently. So we're not yet doing anything with Niantic, but we could. I mean, again, AR, VR, well, depending. AR for mobile phones is not something we're doing right now, but as long as it's something used, you know, with devices, then we are. What did you have in mind though for Niantic?
Well, it just seems like you're creating these environments in great detail, and that's one of the things that they're sort of doing as well.
Yeah, I think they're a lot more focused though on going and into the park and pulling out your mobile phone, right? And it's sort of it's another niche that I think it's oftentimes very confusing because technically it is an augmented reality, but it's much different than when you're in 6 degrees of freedom inside something.
Yeah,
that's what we're focusing on. Right. So let me just share with you real quick what it looks like on Villa. So once you have my org here, you know, this is an example of an organization. It's just made up. This is all backend stuff, right? So you can actually, once you've spawned the DALL-E 2 in your world, you can click on 2D and 3D, and you can click here on and see those. And it just, you can take that PNG and you can actually see, that's what it looks like. That's what I said was ridiculous. You see, this is Westworld. It's like a far cry from Westworld. So look at the eyeballs. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So that's where we are today with AI. Look at the horse in the back. You know, it's like, it's ridiculous. But you can take this. You can create different pieces of art and you can bring them up. So that's what that looks like.
Are you sharing a different screen than what we're seeing?
No, oh, maybe it
Yes,
you couldn't see it. Yeah. So anyway, what I was trying to show you is that over here, when you open up an account on Villa, you will have your own library, and you can throw things in there. You can just drop files in here, literally drag and drop and throw it. And then once you have villas in VR, once you've built something, you can actually view them right here. You click view 2D or 3D assets in this villa. You see all your different assets. These are in this case PNGs. So whatever you create inside Villa, it's interoperable. You can take it elsewhere, right? You can take it and post it to your PowerPoint presentation if that's what you'd like. So just so you know. So yeah, so let me just stop the share. And yeah, sorry that I did have a PNG, but apparently the screen share did not grab it. I don't know why.
It brought it up in a different application than the screen that you were sharing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it was in the same screen, so I'm not sure why. Did anybody here see the Westworld picture, or nobody saw it? Nobody saw it. Okay. Let me try to bring it up one more time. will bring a
If it
different
wasn't
look.
in an image viewer or something like that, then you probably have to, stop the screen share and then restart it with the image viewer.
Possibly, yeah. Let me just do that. If you want, Dominic, if you want to just go through, or unless you have another question, if you want to go through some other questions in the meantime, and I will bring up this image so you can see what it looks like.
Okay, so next one will be Gigi.
I'm the business model junkie, so I'm getting to this and looking at Jasper and what's happened to Jasper and the fact that they thought they had a nice AI driven model for text, and then here comes Chat GPT that clocks them upside the head instead, and now their $1.3 billion valuation probably isn't.
Right.
If you can put in and other people can put in AI into their VR tools, what becomes your competitive long-term advantage? To me, this seems like everyone sort of re-ups the game, tries to make a sexy, cool space, and I think yours looks sexy and cool and is connected with Ready Player Me and is in the right spaces. But then you look at the fact that what seems to be the winning strategy for folks and still scrambling is to get, whether it's VR chat with a large number of people returning and in fact sleeping in the space, what gets to be if everyone can add AI to their thing, what then is your long-term competitive advantage, and who do you expect to come in and be the core parts of your long-term community?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, today the tension is running around ChatGPT. We all know that ChatGPT is not the only player in this field. We all know that they're in the end a startup. They're also very much in bed with Microsoft as it is unraveling. And so there's going to be other big entrants. There are already lots of entrants. In fact, Jasper that you mentioned was, as I think you mentioned it yourself, was based on GPT-3, which is made by the same company of OpenAI. So it's not their core. Well, they play over that, right? They create stuff as layers above that. And I think that's where their benefit is. So I can't speak for Jasper, but I know it's a big issue for them right now, because in the end, the output is very similar in ChatGPT to what they have. Not surprisingly, it's their product. It's the OpenAI product. In fact, ChatGPT is probably even smarter because it's the next evolution of the whole back and forth interaction. It's a real chat. It's not just a create this, right? In Jasper, it's more GPT-3, which is there's an input and there's an output, but there isn't a back and forth that takes into account the previous necessary sound, but not as much as ChatGPT. So a lot of people don't realize that, I think, of how much more potent in a way that is. Look, when it comes to business models, since you are the business junkie, as you mentioned, in the end, a lot of these things, like what we're doing right now, for example, right, with the ability to create using dictation, art, right? Now, it wasn't quite, it was a little hype, right, in the market, kind of like how NFTs, perhaps, maybe even more fleeting than that. I think there's a lot more potential. Personally, I think this is a completely different ballgame than NFTs, but from an art perspective, I'm just saying it was a little bit of a fad that people are like, oh, this is cool, but now what, right? And I think those are the business questions that need to be answered, right? And what library behind the scenes you're using, and whether it's an open source library or it's a nonprofit like OpenAI, or whether it's a company this or that, or it's Google, or it's this. It really is, of course, those large corpuses of information. That's the access those large companies have. That's why they need a lot of money. So for a small player to try to compete with that is going to be very tough. But the big question is this a winner takes it all kind of game? And the answer is no. It's going to be more of the market fit in the end. You don't produce something unless people want it in the end. And I think that's what the industry is right now asking. There's a lot to be done here, right? A browser is an enabling technology. Only the people that created a browser get to benefit from that? No, back in the day of Netscape, it was like that. It was worth $10 billion when it was acquired. But look at all the many companies built on top of that. And that's what I think the answer for you is what do you want to do with the underlying technologies? And for us also, by the way, 3D AI, create worlds in 3D, is a really, really, really difficult problem to solve. And so there's a lot of room here for building proprietary stuff. Even that proprietary stuff is probably going to be relying on existing pieces of the puzzle. Nobody does Blender as good as Blender does. Are we going to create Blender from scratch? Hell no. Nobody does 3ds Max. Nobody does Unreal, as good as they do, right? And so on. So you have to actually create a workflow here that answers whatever it is that you need to do. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity here. So that's how I see it. Let me just, if we can line up the next question, or if you have a follow-on question, feel free to, by the way. This is the beauty of having a small team here. And you're right, it did grab earlier just one piece of it. So you see this, right? This is an example. It was the picture I showed you earlier, but it's one of them. Let me see if I can bring this into it. No, I can't. Let me see if I can bring another one. One sec. So the one I showed you earlier is this right here. Dominic, can you line up the next question? So this is the Westworld picture that I was showing earlier, laughingly, because in the end, I mean, you see how much more work this has to go. This isn't something you can post, right? This is Westworld. So if those of you who saw Westworld, it doesn't even come close. So anyway, yeah, that's why I kept saying, take everything with a grain of salt, because we're just not there yet. It's just literally a tool to get better. So what other questions do we have here?
Anybody has any questions? I have some questions. Maybe anybody wanna go ahead? Yeah, feel free to raise your hand.
Gigi,
Gigi.
I'll put my real hand up versus my digital hand. So of the was it 500,000 people who are registered on your site, what are the use cases then? So are they coming in to run multiple events? Do you have artists? Do you have major corporations? Who's come in to play in the space so far, and how sticky have they been? What's been the return rate?
So these are not registered, but these are people that came in to the experience in VR. We're VR first company. So we do have web presence, and it's far smaller than the VR experience. There's companies that are doing the exact reverse out there, that are focusing almost solely on web, because of the bigger reach that web has. We're more for the experience right now. We're not really, we're looking for the quality of the experience that you can get in XR. That's kind of like the driving sort of like underlying philosophy. And so it's all the different groups that you just mentioned. In terms of who's the bigger driver right now, by far gamers, folks that are into the thrill of the experience. We do have enterprises using this. We've had an enterprise as big as 1,000 people use it. And again, where I feel, in this, I work in this world, and I think sometimes people try to put the cart in front of the horse in this case, thinking, oh, let's just cram every single thing that we're doing in the 2D world, into VR. Well, that just doesn't work. It's just not there. There's so many things that are much better done over Zoom than they are over VR. So my message here is, don't try to cram everything. And from an expectation, lower expectations, and just think together, hey, what are some of the best experiences currently in 2023 in VR? And I think the number one is thrill, immersive thrill. You put people on their toes. That's what you want right now as a business. You want to give people that immediate thrill. Nothing comes even close to that. Keep in mind that a percentage of the people are going to have nausea, and for that reason, we're also opening it up right now for web, for video conferencing, so that other people who can't experience it in VR just because they don't want to, they're driving, they're doing something, they're flying, I don't know, they want to come through different modes. We're going to enable that increasingly over the next few months. That's in the mid-range, 2-3 months. You're going to see more and more experiences that allow you to come in through non-VR experiences and still join the core, which is in VR. But yeah, stand-ups, happy hour, just focus on those experiences right now. If you're in the XR business, think what is something that's very much memorable. We did a huge event, not huge in terms of numbers, but huge in terms of its symbolic importance, for a very large company that did a directors meeting that was a few months ago, and they came in and they had execs from all different parts of the world, from the US, from Europe, from Latin America, from Asia, from all over, and they came in and we were all there and having an experience. And it was a conversation. In their case, they did Zoom, and then everybody went into Villa, and then they finished it. It was a 3-hour event. They finished it over Zoom. So it was great. Why? And why was that great? I'm just kind of like giving the message here. And in a second, I'll get to the numbers you asked for, I promise. But what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to say what interests us right now is not the numbers. It's the quality of the experiences. That's what's important right now. We can't be like voracious for money, 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 time, time, time. It's more about quality. Beat Saber is a great example. How many people do we know that love Beat Saber, but they use it for exactly 2 weeks and it never comes back? They're done. They've listened to all the songs. That's one of the problems here when you have a company-generated experience versus a user-generated experience. You have user-generated experience. You have lots of different flavors and diversity of thought, of experiences, of art, of thrill. When you have a company-driven, you can never keep up with the demand because there's just a lot of demand for different things. And once you've consumed it, especially VR, you pretty much don't want to go back, right? Alex is an example. I played it for 80 hours. I'm not joking. I played nonstop from start to finish. It was all in the span of maybe a couple of weeks. I put 40 hours per week. That's how involved I was with it. But I never came back. And that's the danger of games, right? Because once you've done all the mods or all the experiences in there, you're done. And but in experiences like what we're offering here, these are all fresh new things that come up, and it's up to the people, of course. And I'm getting to the answer that you asked for. What is the return? So we do have a core, sort of like hardcore users that come in monthly, and they'll usually go in there 4 times a month for a period of maybe 30 minutes each, right? And that's a sub 10% of the users, but it's interesting. It's an experience that we have, and we do have a lot of people that just use very much upfront. They have a few experiences, just like I mentioned with Alex. Those are the people who don't want to build, by the way. Those are people who want to consume. We came in thinking, oh, everybody wants to build. Bzz, absolutely wrong. Most people just want to passively consume. That's how our brains are primed right now with social media in this time. It's a very unfortunate thing. I personally think that's the biggest miss out for most consumers, because the best part here is what you create. It's a very satisfying experience that you're a creative person. You're creating things. It takes a lot of brain power. It's easy to do, but it's hard to make it good, to make it look good. And then it's very satisfying. And that's why we allow you to create worlds and also to exhibit them. And you can do that very easily. In a matter of 2 hours, you can have the most exquisite world out there. But you do have to put some thought into it. You need to be somewhat technical, not very much, but you have to be somewhat technical. For example, in our world, you can't go million polygons. I mean, we give you all the instructions there. Most people don't read, but we give you the instructions. We have tutorials. We show you. You want to keep those down as low as possible. Low polygons. Everything in 3D is made of polygons, right? In the end, those polygons are little tiny pyramids, and they sit in there, and they have a 3D shape. They're microscopic oftentimes, but you don't want to have, if you can find the same model for 100,000 polygons, and you can find another model for 5,000 polygons, by all means, choose the 5,000 polygons, because in our worlds, we're playing with polygons. Our avatars from Ready Player Me, they have 15,000 polygons each. It's insane, the amount of polygons. You start adding those up, and the compute on these flimsy devices for 2023, these are flimsy. These are 2020, end of 2020 devices. And the chips and the capacity for them is not that, compared to PCVR, it's nothing. It's compared to an NVIDIA and to a processor that you'll have on a PC, and you won't even come close, right? But the ease of use of these devices is amazing. So all of us have to kind of like, from a business perspective, we have to think, how do I build a world where I carefully choose from hundreds of thousands of options, where I carefully choose the best looking? Remember the insect that I showed earlier? That insect had 1,000 polygons. It's crazy. It's got beautiful texture. You would think that it's got 1,000,000 polygons, but in fact, it has only 1,000. So the trick here is both from a creative perspective, but both from choosing. You need to choose things that are low on polygons and, more importantly, low on texture. You'll see the megabytes. These devices are extremely allergic to high megabyte content. By the way, our websites are as well. Everybody is, because that's what I said earlier. That's also the Wi-Fi. Everybody has to, like, now if something is 5 megabytes, it has to be downloaded, installed into your client, into your device. So you want to keep a very close tab and not go nuts on the sizes. You want to always look for models that are small. But if you're careful about that, you will create this beautiful world that then you can have thousands of people come and visit and see. Now, how do you bring those people? Some of it is just like Dominic. How did you all come here? You know, you have to do some work. Nobody can do that for you, but there is a first mover advantage. Anybody on this call today is an innovator by default. All of us here are drawn to these worlds, whether they're AI or XR or the intersection of the two. So it's our job to get the word out and to bring people in and to make it fun for people. And you do that by paying attention to just the limitations and being mindful of it. If something crashes, by the way, on Villa, if something ever crashes, if you spawn something and the system didn't like it because it was animated in the wrong way, or because it was too big or too many polygons, wait 5 minutes to go into the same villa, go to a different villa in the meantime. And we eliminate it in the back end. So that's how we do it. Also pay attention if you're in this for business, pay attention to the next build that we're about to push, because it's going to give you something that is very powerful. It's called broadcasting. You'll be able to put yourself at a panel on a stage and broadcast it to many, 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 many villas. That's coming in this. So, you know, as many as you need. If you have an event with 1,000 people, you can set it up here right now. And you can have in VR 1,000 people seeing it, each one from their own villa.
Cool. Next person will be Mark.
Hi, Ofer, thank you very much for the outline. It's really amazing what you're sharing with us. My question is this: we're curating events and building communities around this particular space of generative AI, and also paying attention to GPT-3 and seeing how to sort of link those elements together.
I missed, Mark, did you say Hollywood? Did you ask? So
No.
Can you refine the question one more time?
Yeah. We're working with artists. We run a not-for-profit. We're not a commercial organization, but our remit is very much around making the technology and the knowledge available, particularly among diverse communities and artists who are creators and storytellers. Yeah. So I just wondered, from a purely practical point of view, what advice would you give for an organization like ours who have access to programmers, coders?
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So
Yeah.
and I think it's a great question, because a lot of people here are probably wondering, when can they actually build games and integrate them into our platform? And we're very much interested in this. There is a bottleneck here of creation of amazing experiences. Those include games. We're not quite there yet as a company ourselves, with the amount of stuff that we're still putting in from a platform perspective. And so we are seeking to make this very much an open platform. We're working behind the scenes right now to make this available, so that if you have a mod, you can come in and create it with ease. You will need to build it in Unreal if you wanted to bring it to us. Just as I mentioned earlier, that's what we build in. But other than that, you'll be able to do that. And by the way, if you're working with the movie industry, that entire industry is almost entirely built on Unreal as well when it comes to CGI. So in terms of artists, in terms of developers, please reach out if you have something immediate, whether it's a first shooters game or some other experience that you want to put, and it's a game, there's interaction. Then what we can do is we can allow you to have all those great multiplayer experiences inside your game, and so people get to play your game. And the message here is, whether you're for profit or, in your case, non-profit, if the profit goes to the artists, for example, you can set it up that way. And we work with different organizations to make sure that they can benefit from the distribution and marketing that we can enable on our platform. Hey folks, Gigi or Mark are having an experience, come join on Friday at 2 p.m. We can do that for you. we're happy to. If it's something that involves a large amount of people that might be interested in this, you can open your event currently on VR, and you can do that. We enable you right now. You don't need to build any. I mean, other than the creative part of choosing how your worlds will look, you can do that today. It's meant for you. Or by the way, if Gigi's doing, for example, a private event, and she doesn't want to open it to the entire world, she can also do that today on VR. She can probably do it on other platforms as well. It's all a decision that she'll have to go through when she, when she comes up with what suits her criteria best. But yeah, so if you do have a game and you want to develop it, that capability of sort of like getting into our endpoints with yours will happen over the next couple of months. We're working on it right now. So just tap me, find me on LinkedIn, reach out to me with something concrete, tell me what you're interested in, and we'll make it work. And later it will be automatic. You won't even have to. You'll just go and link through our website, and you'll just upload your experience through there, and yeah, that's how, and then that's how it'll sync into our game.
Okay, great. And again, I want to acknowledge Dominique for having the vision and foresight and tenacity to put this together. It's really, really important. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Next one. Oh, go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Next one will be Jacqueline.
Okay. Fantastic. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi, I was curious to know if you guys have your platforms fairly or seamlessly built into social media, so that as people are creating content or have team events that are happening, if you're able to very quickly share on any of the platforms, and if there are platforms, which ones are you tied into?
So as I mentioned earlier, right now, Meta Quest does it very simply. So are you talking about just like, because when you're inside Quest, when you're in any game, you can just take and share that with anybody, right? Whether it's a video or audio, I'm sorry, or whether it's a video or a picture, you can just share it to social media. And there's two ways of doing it. One is through Messenger. Another one is through their mobile app, where it just syncs. So you can just, and a third one, which is my favorite for large files, is through SideQuest. So you just basically drag and drop it from your client, from your device, right into your PC, and then you can edit and share it from there. Does that answer your question, or do you mean something else?
Nope. Yeah, I just wanted to double check and make sure that it was seamlessly tied in the way that you would normally do it, and you could very easily share. Because one of the things that I've noticed about events, that especially in VR events, it's just very hard to market them. Gotcha. And so trying to find a good way to make that quick and easy and fast is something that I just keep tabs on, especially with world builders like you guys are doing.
Yeah. So that I see now the fine tuning of the question, and the answer to that is keep an eye out. Again, we'll have something that allows you to basically do what we're doing here, which is record on video conferencing, so that you can actually just have a much easier way of experiencing what you're experiencing in VR, and then sharing it from outside without having to go even through SideQuest. And yeah, for events, you're talking about like an easy link, and we're working on it. It's more kind of we might surprise ourselves. Those are like, I told you, there's a few things that we're working in the midterm, and our goal is to come out with them to market as soon as we can over the next 2 to 3 months. But naturally, for this world, there's always a lot of kinks and bugs and other things that that kind of come and attack you right when you're ready to do it. Like, I've been meaning to ship this thing. We've been meaning to ship this thing with DALL-E 2 for the last, I don't know, 3 weeks. And there's just a lot of things to do here. There's a lot of moving parts in VR. If anybody thinks that building in VR is easy, you haven't built in VR. It's probably one of the most, just one of the most difficult, most complex, and then add to that the AI component. I'd say that's even the easier part of the mix. The VR itself, just a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that can go wrong. So it's always nice when people are aware of that, because just little things, as we spoke earlier. You can have an event if during an event you will suddenly spawn an animated mesh that is massive in size, you'll crash it for everyone. You'll have to know not to do such a thing. And so awareness of the, how the moving parts work are very much necessary here. If you're only a business person, I don't suggest that you work in VR. The best combination here is to have some basic knowledge, just like Gigi has. She's aware of these game engines, and she's even overkill for what she needs to work on Villa, but it's really, really good. It's going to come very handy because she's an exquisite business person, and she's also an exquisite techie in the end, right? She asked very technical questions earlier. That's kind of what it takes today to run a conference in VR. As much as I'd like to have a cop-out answer and say, oh no, it'll just work, because it never just will. It will under certain circumstances. You have to be aware what the constraints are. In terms of sharing them, you're absolutely right that it could be done in a much easier way. Today, as it stands right this second, you do need to come into VR. You need to basically say, hey, we have an event on Friday, 2 p.m. Everybody come into this villa, but people will need to have their headsets. They will need to have access to your org. You will need to have invited them using their email into your organization for that event. And you will need to communicate and tell them you'll need to go to this villa from my villas when you open the menu. With the push that we're about to make over the next couple of days, you'll have an added benefit where you can have a broadcast, either a private one or a public one. If it's public, it's going to show in public areas on the menu on Villa. And we have a special area for that under public access. It's going to be called public broadcast, and anybody can join because it's public. You'll still need to either tap us to help you market it, but it's as easy as that. It's just easy. Booting Villa, you don't need to belong to your org. You just go to public access, click it, and you're inside your broadcast. And then it's on you to create that whole experience, right? To choose your panel, just like Dominic did here, to choose who'll be able to speak on that stage and so on. Yeah.
Cool. Next one will be me. Yeah, because right now, X Reality Meetup, I founded back in 2019, and a lot of people during that time, it hits COVID, right? So a lot of people ask me like, how can I get into XR Korea from different areas such as fine art students, UX, traditional 2D, mobile website, UX designers, or web designers, developers, right? A lot of people from different areas want to jump in and think, wow, this is an awesome place to start their career. And also some college student, right? The traditional school, their original curriculum is not really tailored to the world right now. So do you have any advice for young college student? Maybe they graduate from
so the two questions, I'll answer the first one. First of all, for your events, I highly, as a thought leader in this domain, I highly, and as someone who worked at Meta and who knows this inside out, I highly encourage you to consider at least having, like when we do the video conferencing in addition, I'm happy to do it combined, but even before then, even, over the next few weeks, if you'd like to do another event that's VR focused over Quest, please tap me again and we'll help you put it together. And just given the show of hands here, we could have done this whole thing in VR, and it would have been 10 times better than this.
How about that? Because I really want to kind of like help the youngster and get into this area. And the more people jump in, the more money, the more human sources, and it will become bigger faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's the second question that you asked. So like for South Korea, for example, then yes, I think that I know several, educational institutions that are very much into this, that are in the innovator bracket. If you have access to those folks around the world, people that are open to this, currently it is in Quest for us at least. It will be also on Pico very soon. Especially in Asia, I think they're a little bit more Pico heavy, and increasingly so. So be on the lookout. That'll be available in a couple months. And then PlayStation 2 as well. That'll be the next one. Then slightly longer term, hopefully on Apple when they come out with their product. They've been delaying it quite a bit. But their product is quite different altogether. It's a little bit on the kind of like a PC-based product, essentially. So, and it's got a battery pack, so it's got a cable, it's going to be very expensive. So if you're, again, I don't want to say anything other than this is a miracle because it's so inexpensive, even compared to Pico. I mean, currently this is cheap. It's just inexpensive. In most international markets, these things are, I think they run with VAT and tax and everything. They'll run $500 instead of $400 in the US. It used to be that these things were $300. At some point, they were sold for $250. Either way, we're talking about, you know, something that is accessible to most demographics, right? They're interested. By the way, think about it. A lot of people are always pausing to say, but it's like this expensive. No, it's like a third the cost of your iPhone or Android. It's a third the cost of the iPhone. It's a fourth the cost of your Mac.
Yeah, actually, I have Quest Pro, but after I purchased that, I still go back to use Quest 2. Why? Because first, it's the battery drain very fast. So I have to, every time when I use Quest Pro, I need to recharge it again.
Exactly.
And the second is that that is so delicate. It's like a jewelry. I'm so afraid because, you know, when I do like Unity development, sometimes I just put away and do something and put it on, and sometimes I will crash something just because, you know, the boundary thing or something. So that's why I just put it back to the case, and I keep using.
You're always charged. It's an always charge, and I agree with you. I prefer today Quest 2 for those reasons that you just noted. I also think it's a much better fit. It's easy to put on, easy to take off, and I want, especially the business people here, I want you to always remind your clients. You remind them that when they say, "Oh, I wish it was on the web," remind them that to use the web, they have to have very expensive tools, and this is nothing. This uses the web with a fraction of that, and it's easier because it's a no thought kind of system. You just put it on and go in. I love it, and remind them also, you know, be friendly. Note to them that, hey, you know, as an enterprise, you can give this to your employees, and then you can do, you know, work, but then also fun, right? Or you can do a stand up and then do an exercise or meditation. By the way, on Villa, you can have guided experiences. So some of you here that are wearing the business hat, it's on you to think, what is content that you want to deliver here? Is it jiu-jitsu? Is it meditation? Is it guided? Is it having a guest? You can do all those things today. You can do it on Villa, you can do it on other platforms, but you can do it. And so there was a question here about the events. And I think that's why we're so excited about this, shipping this broadcasting ability, because previously it was really just kind of contained to only, like, as I mentioned, up to 100 people per villa, which is not a lot. But now that we can open this up, it opens a lot of room for opportunity. And one final thing in that, do let enterprises know. There's a lot of enterprises that say, "Oh, but we don't want to use Facebook or Meta, for that matter, for our consumer. We want the enterprise, but we also don't want to pay for the enterprise, which is $800 for the same exact thing. It's $800. We don't want to go that route." Just do let them know. Look, as long as you're cool with doing a stand-up or a happy hour, because that's where things are at right now. That's where it's at. I'm sorry, for large teams, that's where things are at. Then you're good with the consumer device. Let me remind you, a lot of companies, we're using our own iPhones in companies. We don't have a separate, some companies do, but most people use their own smartphone, right? That's also a consumer device. So just remind them. And by the way, we're not on Meta. We have our own servers that run on AWS from a safety. We don't do ads whatsoever. We don't collect any person, us as a company. Now, do they do things? Perhaps. And I don't think that much yet. There's not even any advertising on the platform just yet. It might be in the future. But even then, we as a company, we're not seeking that. Not at this point in time. We're not thinking those directions. We're the subscription model, right? We're excited to not have to take any personal data here. Some people are afraid, the eye tracking everything. Again, we don't track anything. We let you do it. We don't track anything about you. And we're not going to use it against you. And what happens inside our app, as far as we know, as long as you don't give the permission to share that, because it's your choice, remember that when you boot a device like Quest Pro, it will ask you, would you like to share with Meta? You don't have to if you don't want to. And then, as far as I know, you're not being tracked. Not on our platform for sure. And again, it's on different servers. How would they be able to know all these things? If they did, it's not in our control. Same with Pico and other devices that are coming to the market. As far as I know, it is within our control, and we're very, very big on two things: on privacy. We will never collect these things to sell it to third parties. It's just not the way we do stuff. It's not the way we operate. And I think that's the promise here also with us small players that you're sort of investing in when you work with us, is that we're a new breed. We're looking at that world that in the ashes of it, it's blowing up right now in a negative way. And we're trying to think, what's a better way of doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And do you have any advice for college students who want to break into XR
Great question.
industry? Yeah. And any advice?
So great question. So depending on if they want to do this on a business level, they can just jump right in, right? And if they want to do this, or from a product perspective, they can also jump right in. If they want to do this from an engineering perspective, they're going to have to pick an engine that they love. We're big fans of Unreal, but there's a lot of backing for Unity as well. Unity,
what do you think about the difference between Unreal and
again,
Unity?
you're going to hear different results from different people. If people are working Unity, they're going to be trumping Unity, right? But traditionally, and we see it, there's a lot more sort of photorealism happening in Unreal. It's like hands down, and that's why we chose it. Remember, our original background was from prop tech, and by the way, we have prop tech. If you're a realtor, you can use it today to show your virtual home. We're not going to do that for you. You're going to have to want to do it. You're going to have to believe. You're going to have to, if you're a realtor today, you're going to have to have your Zillow home in 360, which is already a tall order. Only 1% of people have their 360 homes. But if you do have a 360 home, you can bring it in. By the way, it doesn't have to be a realtor. You can also do this because if you're a business person, like there are some people in the crowd here, you can actually encourage your enterprise customers to Matterport, to scan on Matterport and upload it, and then we can sync into that. We can API into that.
Matterport is 360
Matterport,
yeah,
Matter
it's 360 videos, right? It's
not
essentially
Google, not videos, Google Street View. Essentially, think about Google Street View, so you can hop around and inside any real estate, and it's very powerful. If you're a realtor, because you can actually take today your clients in VR on Villa, and you can do an open home from wherever they are in the world, right? But I think an even more interesting concept here is, now that everybody's remotely connecting. I mean, look at my wallpaper here on Zoom, right? You can see my brand and everything, but come on, it's not immersive, right? If you wanted this to be immersive, bring people to their headquarters. It's on you from a business. So you're saying, what message? Now, notice that I'm not focusing right now on the engineering side. Of course, if an engineer student wants to become a great 3D modeler, designer, Unity or Unreal developer, right? C++ is Unreal, or C# is Unity. If you want to, depending if you want to be a front end or a back end, you have the whole gamut here. It's probably not the question that is the most pressing here. I think the more pressing question, same as AI, you can go study libraries, but you can also just leverage AI, right? You don't have to study these libraries. You don't have to go in there and know all the Lambda functions and other libraries and how to do them in Python. And you don't have to. You could, but you don't have to be an engineer in this area. You can also just think, how do I take this and productize it? Which is, I think, a much harder question today. We all know how much is hype versus how much is actually useful. 3D art is one example. So it's up to you as a student. When you think, what's beautiful about a student is, they've got all their options in front of them. What are they going to do for the next 10 years, for the next 20 years? As you choose to do that, I think that a lot of brain power needs to go, a lot of thought needs to go into experimenting with a product market fit orientation.
So you suggest students to learn how to create a product that everyone wants, more like the thinking process. And then since all the technology is convergent right now, right? So for example, XR, it's more like, for example, business, art, design, experience, and the business engineer, right? all those stuff is like a mingling, right? Before we only study one course and we can, for example, lawyer, right? We study law and we become lawyer, right? But now it seems like, we just chat before, AI might become a lawyer later. So the complicated knowledge, how to become, before we are looking for the old societies looking for T types of person. You are very good at everything, but you are good at one thing, right? And you can, feed your entire life, right? But right now it seems like the world changed so fast. So for example, if somebody graduate from one certain knowledge, it might not be adaptable for this entire world. So for example, if somebody graduate from, let's say, I don't know, accounting school, right? And then got a degree, and then this world just keep changing. And do you have any advice that, like, getting into XR area or general advice that how can a person keep adapting this world? Yeah.
Look, there's no doubt right now. If you stop to think about it for a moment, and you get off some of these journalists out there, I stopped reading, brand name journalism, because a lot of this is clickbait. A lot of this is driven. Now it's changing a lot into subscriptions, and that's really interesting. And you need to pick very carefully which one you want to potentially buy. But don't be jumping into clickbait like the metaverse is flat. I'm not going to even say the name of the journalist that said that. I was so appalled to see that. The metaverse is not flat. I'm so sorry. Mrs. Journalist who wrote a metaverse is flat title. Unprofessional. I read her entire 10-page article. It's that kind of stuff that makes you confused, because the metaverse is absolutely not flat. It's only in the beginning. And it's going to get really, really exciting. Zuck has it right. The execution of it is a whole different can of worms we're not going to get into. But the metaverse is not flat. It's growing at really big pace, and it's becoming an amazing, amazing experience. So you're asking, what can students do in this? Well, they can debunk that the metaverse is flat by bringing this into their classroom. They have influence. They're driving this whole thing. They're paying, oftentimes, or whether it's state sponsored or whether it's a private university, they're the customer. They go to their professor and they say, hey, I want to experience this, or I want to have a course in XR if they don't have it yet. And I want to do it in XR, just like you, like I encourage, by the way, you as well. You're kind of like the professor here because you're organizing the entire event. You need to think in terms of, should we actually do this in VR? Is this acceptable? Can we do maybe both?
The reason why
I'm happy to.
The reason why long time ago I was try a lot of all space events at the beginning of the hosting, because this is XR. There's no point of you using Zoom, right? But the thing about it is that I am just one person, and in VR, in all space, I need to create another 2D account as a robot to record the entire event, and I couldn't. I only as one person, and I need to moderate in VR, and I need to record in 2D, my desktop. So I couldn't even do this.
And you're right. And with us, it's even going to be more basic. You'll just have to tap me in advance, and I'll bring a camera person to do that. It also answers another, I think Tracy asked earlier. So we can record this for you. Because you do want to, software is not there yet for as good as you want it to be, where you can go.
I mean, maybe we can schedule another meeting and we will jump into your.
Happy to. This is for me a work of love. I really believe in this. I think we're 3D beings, and I want to give a message here for all of you, because you're sending this message as well, because you're all believing in this. But let's not forget, we're 3D beings that forced ourselves through evolution to work on 2D screens. And now we're sort of like undoing, getting a divorce from 2D gradually, but we're going back to our roots, right? Where we learn a lot faster, where it's a lot more thrilling. So focus as creation. Every person here right now has the tools to quickly, like in a matter of 10 minutes, if you wanted to, create a thrilling environment. That's the beauty of it. You can do it today on our platform for sure, and other platforms as well, I believe. Or I know. It really depends on how much creativity you want to put into it, how innovative you are, and maybe a positive message here. Remember, everybody always said, oh, Uber is going to kill taxi drivers, and then now, people are not even riding Uber as much, so that's getting, but that's what evolution is. The same people that yesterday perhaps were spending their time as Uber drivers, tomorrow might be people that leverage AI, for example, to do experiences that are digital. So that's why I'm one of those open market people that doesn't believe that this is replacing us. Not just yet, and even when it does, there'll be other benefits to it. And I'm not for one second dismissing the negative side of AI, but maybe just to wrap this whole thing up, a positive message to also the younger generations. I think these are amazing, times in front of us here. I think this is, you always have to pause and think about all the great, and as I've been reading recently, there's no going back. The genie's out of the box with this. You can't, there's some people are going, oh, we're going to a very murky Black Mirror future. We're not. I mean, maybe we are, but currently for the next 10, 20 years, I'm seeing a lot more positive than negative coming out of this.
Yeah, and what I'm thinking is that since you are so passionate about this villa, this world, and Actuality Academy, we have course like teaching people like how to do AR, VR, MR. I am recently preparing AR course and creating an mobile AR app, but I think it might be more thrilling if maybe you can create a small course. It's like for marketing promotion, and then teach
Possibly.
like a youngster.
I'm so busy right now. I'm just not sure. I'm more than happy to be a guest in one of your sessions.
Yeah. Maybe workshop. How about
by the
workshop?
way, the people here in this crowd, there are people here who are perhaps even better than me for leading such a thing. So that's what I'm saying. We're focused right now on building a platform, but the use cases on top of the platform are best experimented with. Look, I'll be very forward about this. The innovation has to come, the creative innovation, and that's where the opportunity, in my view, is how do you create experiences that people love? We're giving you the basics here. You can work with it. What you do on top is up to you, right? And it's the same for you with your agenda of what you give in your courses. It's the same for Gigi, or Jim, or Jacqueline, or Tracy, anybody here that has spoken, and we see that you're grappling with what to do that people love. Experiment, because you never know what people actually would love. You never do. It's impossible for me to dictate. That's why if you ever host me, I will never say do this, because there isn't a do this. There is what works for you and your demographic that you're working with. And it has to come through experimentation. We did that. Remember that I told you about that big event that we did with executives around the world. I think it was a success, but they're the ones who designed it. We told them what's available. They're the ones who designed it. They came up with the innovative solution of doing, like an hour in Zoom, an hour in Villa, and an hour in Zoom again. It was their decision to do it that way. It was very well thought out. It came from them, and it was a success. It was a raging success. I encourage you all to think in terms of, understanding the platforms you're working with, understanding what the limitations are, understanding your demographics, and constantly asking what truly gives value to the end user. That's what you need to do. And that's what the message is for the students as well. It's and not a how can I cram Word and PowerPoint and everything into VR. That's not the right answer. That's, in my world, just BS. Just do it where it belongs, in Zoom. Currently, much easier. Boom, boom, boom. You're set. Much easier. What if it works? Why break it? Right? It's already working. Fantastic. But some things like immersive experiences, thrill. We have this thing with fireworks. Wow, it's just a dopamine rush. That's all it is. It might last for 5-10 seconds. In Villa, there's a button there you can put a or the trails, right? When you fly behind you. What a rush to see all those things, like we have, the trail doesn't just go away, it kind of stays for a few seconds. Those little things, they mean a lot to people, for example. Go figure that's going to be the one that people love. So I encourage you to experiment a lot with what today in 2023 matters in VR, which is thrill, immersion, and fast experiences. Boom, you go in, experience it. It doesn't have to be, remember what I told you that the hardcore players are on average 30 minutes? It doesn't have to be 2 hours. And by the way, I call bullshit. I'm sorry for the French. I call bullshit and saying it's because it's not comfortable. No, not at all. One thing, when you're engaged, this becomes air. Yeah, there's some people that lose the battery, but tell everybody, always be plugging this in before a session. Always be plugging it in, because you will run out unless you have like an hour built in of energy. Or if you run out, have a standby and put your cable in so that you're in VR with a cable into your PC or Mac.
Okay.
But it's not because this isn't comfortable that people are not in there for a lot of time. It's because this is a very productive tool. I can do stuff here. I can have experiences that would take me in the real world hours to go to the beach, to meet with people. Here I can do it in 10 minutes. I go, boom, I experience it. I have a thrill, and then also cut it out and get out. Do it quickly. That's what this is good for in 2023, right? So build up from that. When you do experiences, don't do very long experiences. Like we're going over time here as well. So who am I to speak? But what I'm saying is, let the engaging parameters of immersion work in your favor,
Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much. And
right.
Next one will be Jean.
Yes, I come from the world of stereoscopic 3D. So what you see behind me is actually a stereoscopic 3D image.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I'll lower the hand in case anyone's able to fuse
Can
it.
you, I mean, everything is stereoscopic, right? That's what VR is.
No.
So what do you mean?
We view the world in stereoscopic 3D because we have two eyes, and each eye via parallax sees a slightly different view of the world.
Right.
So a lot of the things that you see in VR headsets in terms of the programming is not stereoscopic. They're using 3D models to generate it, but you're seeing the same view in each eye.
But isn't that what, explain the distinction then.
The distinction is for stereoscopic 3D, you have a different view in each eye. And the Quest headsets are perfectly capable of displaying that, but most of the content is not stereoscopic.
Gotcha.
So reportedly, Apple is going to be very focused on stereoscopic 3D with their headset. In fact, they're hiring a bunch of people right now to generate stereoscopic 3D content for their headset. So what I'm wondering is, when the Apple headset comes out, are you going to support stereoscopic 3D with your system?
I guess this is above my paycheck right now to answer that, because I always thought that you're getting. Can you give it a distinction, like on Quest today? What would be the difference between the two? Like, what's something that's not stereoscopic?
With Quest right now, you see the same view in each eye.
Mm-hmm. And what's an example
most
of
the content is set up that way, but you can view things in stereoscopic 3D with Quest. In fact, I belong to various 3D clubs, and some of the clubs have a little world where you can go in with Quest and look at their content, their stereoscopic 3D content with Quest. And
what is the difference? It's got slightly different depth to it when it's in stereoscopic, as you mentioned it.
What it is when you're sitting there in your chair in your office, you see everything, you perceive depth directly through your eyes. And so and it's done by parallax, by the fact that your two eyes are in two separate locations.
Yeah, we all know that we can just blink and then we can see things from a different angle.
Yeah, if you close one eye, you lose a lot of depth perception.
Right. And that's what I thought the stereoscopic meant, but you're saying there's a different level to it. And what is it?
Stereoscopic means that you have the full experience through the two different eyes, and each eye is seeing its own view of the world. And so you're, even with a still image, you're directly perceiving depth. That's the way our eyes work.
Got it.
And that's why predators, for example, have two frontward facing eyes so that they can perceive that depth directly. It allows them to.
No, but isn't that stereoscopic? So I'm still not sure I understand. What are the stereoscopic models you're referring to right now? How do you differentiate? Because I'd like to try it.
Differentiation is that each eye sees a different view of the world. And
but just by the mere fact that the eye is separate, right? It's already seeing slightly different view. Isn't that the whole concept? Exactly. So you're saying something beyond that, though?
No, that's what stereoscopic 3D is. But with a lot of the Quest content, you're going to see the same image in the right eye and the left eye. That's not stereoscopic. But with the Apple headset, they're very much going to be, according to reports, they're very much going to be focused on stereoscopy. So a different view in the left eye and the right eye. So the worlds that you're creating are based on 3D models. Now you can, for example, if you're in, I assume it's very similar in Unreal, but if you're in Unity, there is an option, a little checkbox that you check off if you want to export it as stereoscopic 3D. So Apple reportedly is going to be very focused on stereoscopic 3D. So
when you look today at a model between the two, does one look a lot more natural than the other?
Yes, the stereoscopic 3D looks very much more real. And
I'm trying to think, have I, like, I'm imagining everything we do is stereoscopic, but you're saying that there are some things. Oh yeah, you're right. I'm recalling now that the stereoscopic can be a lot more acute. Can also be very costly.
So when you encounter the Apple headset, all of a sudden you're going to be facing this, and I guess you really
some of our UI is already in stereoscopic, but there's a cost in. I'm remembering now, so I see what you're saying. It's. I think high level everything is stereoscopic by mere fact that it's in two different eyes and you're getting two different views.
Views in the two eyes.
But yeah, there is a higher GPU, and I would be surprised if everything's applied this way. On
the differences aren't necessarily that large. In fact, with compression algorithms, you might base the right eye on changes to the left eye, for example. From a compression standpoint. But anyways, so this is new to you, I guess.
No, it's not. Like I said, we're using. I see what you're saying. It's the check box that we do use on some things. It just costs a lot from the GPU, from the.
It may not cost a lot more because, for example,
it costs a lot. It's like 10x. We happen
not at all.
We do happen to apply it on certain things inside our app for the UI. And it does look, the resolution is far crisper for that. But there's a very big cost. So
let me put it this way. NVIDIA used to sell as a feature in their video cards where you would play a normal game, a normal computer game, and on the fly, their video card would convert it to 3D. Because it's all based on 3D model rendering. So it's actually trivial to create that in 3D. Because they've already got the models. And so that was available. And apparently Apple is going to be using that type of...
because they've got the M2 chip and they can afford to do a lot more compute in their systems than...
in reality, to render the image based on a slightly different angle is not that big of a deal to create the two views.
I'm telling you that we've tested this multiple times, and there's like a 10x deterioration in the FPS. If you apply it to everything. So the only difference is that it becomes a lot crisper for UI, the way we're using it. But I can see how you'd apply that check inside those game engines for everything if there wasn't a compute constraint. These devices are compute constrained. They're flimsy. The X2 by Qualcomm is not that capable in the end. You're having a glorified Android sit right here on your eyes, and we're talking about the X2 chips.
I think
I'm sorry, the M2 chips with.
I think when you see the Apple headset, you're going to find that it's not as computationally expensive as you think. For example, I can throw a 3D image in front of you and apply that to the headset, and there's no additional cost at all. In fact, the image behind me is exactly one of those types of images. And, obviously over Zoom, you're not paying any extra cost at all to see that image.
Right.
And so, anyways, I don't think it's nearly as big of a deal as you think it is. But you're going to run into...
I'm telling you right now, it's a huge deal. And if it's what I think it is that you're referring to, which is a certain checkbox that allows you to do that, it just... there's a huge cost to the system for Quest. We measure everything with what is it called? I forgot. There's a software that sits, it overlays and shows you all the metrics, and the FPS goes drastically down on stereoscopic.
You can pre-compute all the 3D stuff so that you can send it out directly. But in fact, in our club meetings for like the LA 3D Club and other clubs that are online, they show videos all the time. And they just send out a stream, just like the stream that you're seeing right now. And it just has a separate left eye and right eye in the stream. And it's effortless to view that. There's no extra.
Jim, I'd love if you can tap me, and I'd love to maybe do bring you into one of our internal conversations about this, because maybe there is a way to sort of like do it through a different route than just checking it inside the game. Right? Like you said, maybe you build it into the model. I'm not familiar with it. I don't have as much. All I know is that for the UI, as I mentioned earlier, there's a huge hit to the and so what happens is some things, if you need them like written things and you need them to be very crisp, if you don't do it stereoscopic, then it'll be a little blurry once you hit that mark.
What Apple's trying to do right now is they're trying to bring this content into their system. And so they're looking for stereo content. And so, you know, I shoot nothing but stereo content, basically. I was going to shoot a time lapse of lightning the other day, and I set it up to shoot in stereo. So once you've got the content, it's just another stream. And so it doesn't have to be very big of a deal at all computationally.
I hope so. I mean, I hope there's other tricks and hacks of doing it rather than, you know, just a check inside the game engine. So maybe there are other ways of doing it.
The 3D community, the stereoscopic 3D community is sort of mystified by why people aren't using it so much with Quest.
Interesting.
And so it's coming. It's about to hit you.
No, please reach out, because I'm looking for what might be some ways. Remember, a lot of the models that we use are third-party, you know, user-generated content, right? You search for a Tesla and you'll get something that somebody else created. So, and then we render it in real time over. So you're talking about the rendering portion, because that's the only thing we have control over in that case. There's other things that we do build in our platform, and that sounds like we can do right away.
Matterport, for example, their cameras capture everything in stereoscopic 3D. You may not know it, but I've gone to real estate stuff, for example. It was captured by Matterport, and there was the option to view it in 3D. Most people probably don't, but there was that option there.
Cool. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you for bringing this up. Let's definitely connect offline, and we'll see what we can do, and also how we can help, especially since you're, you know, shooting a lot of content in that. I'd be interested to see what are some immediate applications we can, you know, take advantage of here. As long as it doesn't bring down. Remember, FPS is the single contributor to nausea. The lower the FPS, the worse it gets. Quest specifically has a few hacks for how to get even more out of the system. They're constantly adding. They just came out with an upgrade that gives you 7% more GPU or something. So it's interesting, but you have to tread very carefully in these worlds, because any little thing that you do works against you. And the moment you go from, let's say, below 60 FPS, doesn't feel good to most users. and we've played a lot with the check that you're referring to inside the game engine. And it goes down from, let's say, 100 FPS down to 30 FPS very rapidly. And that's why we're only doing this on very specific UI. Yep, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's what I wanted to say. I was curious about one other thing, and that is with the Quest Pro, in your environment, does the user get a significantly better experience if they're using the Quest Pro versus the Quest 2?
No.
Or is it the same?
No, it's the same. The difference is only noticeable from an end user perspective. Noticeable experiences are, you know, experiences are the facial, automatic facial recognition. If in the past on Quest 2, we do have that. We give you have different buttons. Nobody uses them. I rarely use them, that allow you to do a forced laugh, a forced frown, forced different expressions, right? Now that we can do this because there's, you know, inward facing sensors on Pro, you're able to just be yourself, and it pretty
just
much captures
just the facial expressions.
just, no, the facial and the eye tracking, so you can see the eye because they've got Toby from they've got Toby in there, and so you have eye tracking. I believe it's Toby. Does that add enough value to justify $1,500? Again, it all depends. As a consumer, hands down, no. As a business, I don't know. I don't know what to try. I'm trying to be as transparent as I can. I think that the price point is problematic.
I saw a review of it, and one woman was complaining that in meetings, her eyes always look half closed because it couldn't properly perceive her eyes being open or not.
I don't know. I don't know what the situation there is. It gets a little funny. Again, we all need to be very sort of like, we can't be our expectations need to always start low and let ourselves be be happy. I enjoy the fact that I can be seen and express myself, but again, the value is not there in my view, in my personal view. I'm not representing any other thing here, other than in my view, the value is not there to justify an extra, $1,000 over Quest. But do I expect that Quest 3 would have all those technologies implemented at a really good price point? Hands down, yes, I do. I do have very high expectations for them to come out with all those great things that they've got in Quest Pro inside a Quest 3, and that it'll come to the market soon and will give people all the benefits. Now, I don't know how they're going to cram it. They're going to have to do a lot of subsidies because those sensors, I'd imagine, are expensive in their own right. But they've been able to produce magic in the past, and I'm sure they will in the future. At any rate, that's where the industry is going, right? The whole industry is going in that direction. So increasingly, you'll see more and more of that. And think about it for a second. What it does is it gives you a little bit more of a natural experience inside VR instead of having that dull, nobody got more flack than Zuckerberg for his meme there with the Eiffel Tower. So I'm sure that they're doing everything they can to get more than just that cold, expression that Quest 2 produces.
By the way, I should mention with regards to the stereoscopic stuff, if you go see the new Avatar movie, it's at 4K, it's projected at 4K, 48 frames per second, stereoscopic 3D.
Right. But again, you'll
see stereoscopic there.
Yeah. But the only thing that's running behind, when you mentioned it earlier, is applications that you're watching in 2D that have been shot in stereoscopic, right? Is what you're referring to versus.
No, what you're seeing a lot with Quest is 3D models that are just being rendered the same in each eye.
Mm-hmm.
And with stereoscopy, you
shot it from different angles for actually shooting it. But
and when I shoot 3D, I shoot from different angles. So it's same with probably a lot of the new Avatar movie was shot natively, meaning they shot using a camera that had two lenses, two image sensors, and so forth.
I wonder if this is more relevant though to videos seen, whether inside VR or not inside VR.
It certainly would be relevant to that, yes.
And UI, right? Because you take it from both angles. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. I definitely want to dig into this a little deeper. And let's take this offline. Sounds like you're very knowledgeable about a bunch of things here. So I'd love to, expand this and see how we can help each other technically evolve, because these are all really interesting questions that you bring up.
All right, good deal.
Cool. Next one, I think Gigi, do you have questions or yeah?
Well, yeah, I was gonna sort of come back to the AI portion of this, and I tend to look at a lot of things that have happened in VR, our efforts in sometimes de-skilling the creation experience so that the average person can create. And I was sort of thinking about that if more folks will have AI in their building systems, what's going to happen? Is this going to bring more people into the system, or make it so that the expectations of people are going to be higher in custom experiences? Or will this bring in a whole layer of people who really rock at AI to then be delivering for large organizations when we still have people who don't know how to turn their mics on for Zoom, right? So needing a layer of professional delivery to deliver now this AI embedded product.
Yeah, it's a great question. Trying to think for other patterns that we've had in the past. I tend to think that it's more the earlier of the two examples you gave, less the 1% of people that know how to drive AI in the top. I think that more and more it's going to be just embedded in every single thing we touch everywhere. It's just going to be something that just leverages our capability. By the way, from a compute perspective, maybe quantum computers are going to even make things a lot faster, and then it'll just be amazing in 5 years or 10 years where people didn't expect it to be that good. I think OpenAI, all of us had that moment going, whoa, we all expected that in 2018. Suddenly we got it in 2023, but it's amazing. And it's doing a lot more than we expected. Like, why is it hitting the news suddenly? It's because I think the level of jump that they've made from 3 to 3.5 for GPT, and everybody's expecting that the next evolution of this is just leaps better. I think it's going to affect everybody. And I think that everybody already sees it. I think all of us kind of have learned just by using Google, for example, what sort of systems tend to do with stuff. Dictation is another. Google Translate, for example, right? We learn what if you're into linguistics, you see right away, you see all the flaws in the system and you see all the benefits in the system, right? And you learn
I'm an Otter AI girl. I've been an Otter AI girl professionally for actually a few years now, and having that always translating behind me, and that's gotten so much better too.
Yeah,
I think it's part of the lingua franca now, is what people expect.
Exactly. And you don't have to know anything about, all the libraries of AI that are underlying this. Like, you really don't. I happen to have dug into this. I happen to have gone into like Python and learn how to execute from a engineering perspective these different libraries and make them work. You don't have to, though. You can just get. I just read on the information, they published something about this kiddo from Princeton who is trying to detect right away if text was written by ChatGPT or not. And they're looking, I was reading this, really interesting. Check out that article, but it's talking about how his system is looking for like humans have spurts of creativity, and you don't see that in a ChatGPT. There's like humans have like literally in text that a human wrote, there's spurts of maximum creativity, lasts very short, and then it's just dull. And then there's another spurt of creativity. And that's how I interpreted it, at least. And so he's looking for that, for those patterns, and looking to find them. I think, especially somebody like you, who's aware of the different evolution over time, you're seeing probably exactly where in linguistics where the sort of like where it goes wrong, right? Like when you can try to translate, it's like, whoa, that was a very poor translation, but I can see how they're maybe putting a weight. I mean, all it is like statistics, putting weights on different words that are sometimes completely not meaningful in translation. Yeah, so I think to answer your question, I think that it is more optimistic. It's more like the masses are going to immediately. We as humans, we adapt very quickly to new technology. It's amazing how when it works, people just go from innovator to the mass to the majority, right? I think this one is an example. I mean, God, there's like 2 million developers right now over just ChatGPT, like overnight, boom, and you're seeing crazy manifestations of this. And so the next layer is going to be also the content, like when you're interacting, for example, with an avatar. Is it actually useful, or is it just BS, right? Like, is it? I mean, we can do it already. You can ask Siri questions. Do you do that? I don't.
Monmouth University has a phenomenal thing in Second Life where you can sit and chat in advanced Mandarin. And it's part of their advanced Mandarin course. And so you just sit and talk with an avatar that is there's cool stuff out there. They've been doing that for years already. Cool stuff.
So. But the question is it like for learning Mandarin, is it more engaging to just listen to a Mandarin podcast and just try or even a video on YouTube that has translation in English right below it, dubbed, perhaps? Maybe that's a better way to learn than just to listen to a bot, or if your intention is to learn, for example, or if your intention is just to get a translation, then what you said sounds much better. Actually,
but you walk up to a character that's a bot on a street corner, and you actually transact buying from them and everything else. But I can talk about that forever.
Yeah, so. No. This I think all these things are just fascinating. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much. It was a lively discussion. I really enjoyed it today. And please, all of you, please reach out to me. As I mentioned, I'm very easy to find, Ofer Baharav on LinkedIn. I'm very available. I get excited by this just like you. And I'd love to evolve this conversation in any way you feel is going to be contributed.
Yeah, sure. Maybe we can schedule another one and yeah,
In
we can
VR.
host. Yeah, in
100%.
VR.
It's a done deal. Just let us know when.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will send you like the available slot, and we can have like a part 2, and it will be in
Fantastic.
Villa. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah. You too. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you.